Mr. Mapaila, thank you very much for your time. First, let's start with the blackmail statement. Blackmailing South Africans in order to do what, or to achieve what?
Well, we think in order to achieve particularly the posture towards privatization and over-reliance on the IPPs, but we think that it's lack of leadership in a sense that in different areas where, for instance, the lack of coal, we don't have a shortage of coal as a country at the moment. In fact, we have got good high-quality coal. On the side of diesel, we don't have lack of diesel at the moment. There's good diesel available. It is the contracting out processes, the collusion of big companies and some of the corrupt elements that have been in Eskom and those that are still inside that are frustrating this particular process for the appropriate supply of diesel as well as appropriate supply of high quality coal that should not render our power stations from breakout or from requiring refurbishment and services constantly because of poor quality coal that is put there. So all of those contribute to what we think is unacceptable lack of leadership.
Let me stay on this leadership issue for a while, Mr. Mapaila, if you allow me. In December, the executive structure or the executive leadership at Eskom were told they were staying put, they were not going to go on leave because load shedding had started then, and we were told that we were going to have a Black Christmas. And indeed, they set, and we went through December without any blackouts. January month goes off without a hitch. February, we're in such a deep crisis that we went all the way to stage 4. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's the point. It's a complacency and collusion to try and be part of the saboteurs. But obviously, regarding these interventions on transformation of Eskom, particularly the decision that has been taken that there must be a consolidation of Eskom's operations and possible unbundling regarding both the section that deals with generation, distribution and transmission of Eskom in order that each entity can attract new investment and therefore be able to grow and make Eskom independent. But they want to force that to be a privatization model. And we reject that approach of a privatization model. We also reject an approach that will destroy jobs in Eskom, but we are also aware that there's been overly appointment of senior executive management at Eskom over the last 3-4 years. Some of them are almost possibly doing repetitive jobs. And if there's anything that will touch workers, it should never be about the middle and lower workers. It should start at the top.
Is Phakamani Hatebe the right man to steer Eskom out of this crisis?
We should commend Phakamani's appointment as well as the new board, what they try to do, because Eskom was in a state of chaos and we're reaping part of that particular chaos at the moment. But we don't think that there should be a blackmail, including by the big capital. Say, for instance, the big companies that supply diesel. And the contracting system that was there between what we understand to be the black companies, emerging black companies that were contracted by Eskom to supply diesel, for instance, who can get the appropriate or the required diesel from these big corporates who have been supplying Eskom uninterrupted consistently. Now that there's been an intervention in that particular process, they sabotage the process. The same thing that happens in the coal division. So we think we need to change our policy posture, particularly regarding energy security, coal security, which guarantees our energy security at the moment because we're still over-reliant on coal degeneration of electricity as a country.
Mr. Mapaila, something very interesting was announced by the Minister in charge of this portfolio, Pravin Gordhan, yesterday. He says the country is now calling for help from outside of its borders, and as we speak, 2 to 3 engineers are being brought into the country in order to help stabilize this situation. Again, I go back. Phakamani Hatebe, as far as we know, does not have previous experience in the energy sector. Who surrounds him at the moment, seeing that he doesn't have prior experience in the energy sector?
It's not only him. We do have high-powered engineering specialists in South Africa. Some of them were with Eskom. Some of them were chucked out during the state capture process of Eskom, and they're still available in the country. They can be utilized. But
so you want Matsela Koko back?
No. Matsela Koko was part of the problem, but he's one of our top engineers, by the way, African or black engineers, as Matsela Koko, as a professional. But to the extent of management, then there were problems there. That's an issue that we have with him. But as an engineer, as a specialist, we have no problem with him. It's a good African specialist in that case. So there are many of those. But at the same time, we can't deny any help that it's required for us to turn things around, particularly given the fact that existing leadership doesn't give us the answers, the appropriate answers on what is possible. Maybe an outsider can come and without fear or favor of anybody and say, here's the problem, you can fix this, you can fix that. Maybe their views can be taken seriously. But on the one hand, we also appreciate the fact that most of the equipments that were used at the moment, that's our understanding, in Medupi, for instance, were done by foreign companies. They did specs that are difficult to get from here, so they deny us localization of industry, the industrialization of our own economy in order to meet the demands and the needs of our own state-owned enterprises. So that is why when things break, we have to go for them. We have to look to go to them to come and fix our problems. And that's the thing that we need to change going forward.
Finally, and just very quickly, Mr. Mapaila, the inside story is that you were not consulted as the ANC's alliance partners about this issue of unbundling Eskom. You were called to the ANC Lekgotla simply to be informed.
That's incorrect.
Is that true?
That's incorrect. We discussed this matter in December as the Alliance Political Council. We set up a task team regarding the unbundling method, and that particular method, the task team will put whatever on the table as options about what is possible. But we started the discussion as the alliance. Of course, it was not even prior December, we've discussed this question of the IPPs. I think what has not happened was the fact that we had encouraged the Minister of Energy to meet with the unions to discuss this question and report back to us so that we were able to take a decision. And when we met in December, they've not yet met, and we were quite unhappy about that. And when the president, but we made some fundamentals in that meeting in December, for instance. We said there should be no privatization of Eskom. It should remain in the hands of the state. We said there should be no retrenchment.
Consulta says it was not consulted. It was merely informed at that Lekgotla, ANC Lekgotla.
No, the Lekgotla was something else. But I'm talking about the Alliance Political Council in December. We debated this particular question. There's no doubt about it. There was a discussion. Only in at the Lekgotla, but also at the Lekgotla, the ANC president assured everyone that there won't be privatization of Eskom. And in his closing as well as in his opening of the Lekgotla, there was assurance in that regard.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Very confusing statements indeed in as far as consultation on this matter of unbundling is concerned. But let's leave it there for the time being. He is the SACP's first Deputy General Secretary, Soli Mapaila. Thanks indeed for coming through. Coming up, COSATU is on strike against job losses. We're live to our reporters in just a moment. You're watching ENCA now.